a meaningful installment. Okay, so this is Shabbos candles. We learned that there is a mitzvah to light Shabbos candles. You will not find this mitzvah articulated in the Chumash in any place. This is one of those mitzvot which has a rabbinic structure. It is a rabbinic structure that is highly, highly informed by the sort of biblical imperative to make Shabbat a special day. But it is still a rabbinic mitzvah. And so the first question we're going to be asked, the Shulchan Aruch is going to ask in sort of the standard fashion is, okay, who's obligated in this mitzvah? So it's going to say, Yehei Zahir La'asot Ner Yafeh. A person should endeavor to make a nice candle. V'yesh mechavnim lasot shtei ptilot. Why is there a custom to do two candles? Echad keneged zachor ve'echad keneged shamor. One, in the Ten Commandments, there are two. The Ten Commandments are presented in the Torah twice. Once in the book of Shemot, in Parshat Yitro, Exodus chapter 20, and a second time in Parshat Va'et Hanan in the book of Devarim. In Parshat Yitro, it says, Zachor, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. In Devarim, it says, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat l'kodsho, guard the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So you have these two languages. We have a very strong religious tradition, which is articulated also in the Chadodi prayer, Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad. The two were said of a single word. God said both, and it contained the double meaning or the double articulation of both remember and guard. And so we enshrine that in a ritual fashion by lighting two candles. Now, the Ashkenazic Jews, as in the Shulchan Aruch, by the way, you can see, I should probably keep this in English because most people are probably more English oriented, but you can see the way that they've graphically shown this is in the block print. You have the words of Rabbi Yosef Karo. He's the author of the Shulchan Aruch, and you have the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isserles. You should also be aware that when Israelis talk about him, he's Rema. Anyway, that's a different story. But Rema stands for Rabbi Moshe Isserles. Rabbi Moshe Isserles was a contemporary of Rabbi Yosef Karo, maybe slightly junior. Rabbi Moshe Isserles lived in Krakow. He was the chief rabbi of Krakow, and he also was in the process of writing a code of Jewish law. But Rabbi Karo wrote it, completed it first, and then the Ramah wrote glosses. He wrote corrections. So what's one of his corrections? His correction is, well, you Ashkenazic Jews, he says, one may add and light 3 or 4 candles, and such is our custom. I believe the custom that is prevalent is that you light more candles if you have more children. So the tradition is that you have 3 children, you would light 5 candles. 4 children, 6 candles, right? 2 for Zachor and Shamor, and then additional ones representing a way of saying thank you to Hashem for every additional child. Now, there's an additional aspect of this, which is if you forgot to light, then there is a punishment for forgetting. So if you forgot to light, then you should light a hold on a second. Oh, sorry. Here I am looking at it in my. Forgive me, everyone. I thought you were all looking at my screen, and it turns out that you were not looking at my screen. So I apologize for that. And I also missed letting some people in. So let me just start. I'm going to start over again just a little bit briefly. What is my brief start over going to be? Let me just get back to my brief start is going to be that. Hold on a second. Why can't I find it now? All right, sorry. I'm going to try. Okay. We're going to try one more time on the sharing of the screen. Hold on a second. Oh, this is very frustrating. Okay. Okay, now we can all see. All right, good. We're talking about Shabbos candles. We said that the Shabbos candles, we generally light two because they represent remember the Sabbath day and and observe the Sabbath day, Zachor and Shamor. The Ramah, who is the Ashkenazic voice, says you can add one light, 3 or 4 candles, as is our custom. The custom is if you have more children, you light more. Now, there's another aspect where a woman might start lighting more. It says, the woman who one time forgets to light should light 3 candles for the rest of her days, because one may add to an intentional task rather than something else, so long as one does not kindle less than 2. So this became the custom. It was a punishment for forgetting to light candles, and believe me, this works. This works quite powerfully because people don't want to get into a situation where they forget to light Shabbat candles. There may be a little bit more flexibility in our world because the ultimate purpose of Shabbat candles is so that you have functional light in your home on Shabbat. So until the time of Thomas Edison, this was a very important thing because if you didn't light candles for Shabbat, the fear was the way that Mordechai was a 13th century Ashkenazic rabbi. He's the one who sort of distills this idea. He says he's afraid you're going to trip right in the middle of Shabbos, and it's going to be, you'll be groping around in the dark, and it's really a very uncomfortable thing. So you need to create an atmosphere which is positive. Now, if a woman were to say, oh, I better turn on the dining room lights for Shabbat, and then proceeds to forget to light Shabbat candles. So what do you think? Should she have to light an extra candle for the rest of her life or not? No one's giving me an answer.
Yes, she should.
She should.
Yeah.
Okay, but why?
Yes.
Why?
Because she forgot and she's got to be punished for it.
Oh, come on.
But did she forget to light? She forgot to light the ceremonial candle, but did she not provide light for her Shabbos table? She turned on the dining room lights.
Well, that wouldn't have happened 100 years ago, though.
All right, but we're not 100 years ago. We're now. So we have to, that's the right. Jewish law's got to be dynamic, right? So we've got to come up with an answer for now.
You're creating dissension in our family. She should be forgiven.
I'm sorry, Rodney. The dissension in your family is reflected as a dispute amongst the poskim. But I think I would say that if you specifically turned on the light for the purpose of creating a Shabbat atmosphere, then it's okay. But if, let's say, you turned on the light and you were using it to just set the table and it just stayed on, then maybe you would still have to light the extra Shabbat candle, right? But if you specifically turned it on, because there are some people who say that like, let's say in a hospital room is a very typical example, that if you cannot, and I would not advise anyone to light a Shabbos candle in a hospital, because there's oxygen there and you could blow up, and that would be a very bad thing. So you have to light an electric light. So lighting an electric light, preferably an incandescent lamp, can serve as your Shabbat candle. So that would be my my advice on that. Yes, you can use the light for a Shabbat candle for a board game. The Shabbat candle is the exact opposite of the Hanukkah candle. It is meant to be functional light. Now, moving to the next. section of the Shulchan Aruch. Well, oh, forgot I could turn off the annotation. Okay. Okay. He says, Echad anashim ve'echad nashim. Men have to do it, women have to do it, right? Chayav, in their home, they have to light a Hanukkah candle on Shabbat, not Hanukkah, they have to light Shabbat candles, right? Even if you don't have food to eat, you have to go out and beg and get oil to light the Shabbat candle, because this is part of the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat, of Shabbat enjoyment. So, single 32-year-old men, do they have to light Shabbos candles? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, just making sure everybody's awake.
Or
Now,
they just turn the light.
what about 22-year-old yeshiva bachers?
Yes.
Are they
Yeah.
alone?
Well, who would they be with?
No, I
The
think that
Persians on them.
In their
Why
room?
not?
Well, I don't know, Sam. You're the one who said, are they alone? I was asking you who they're with.
I mean, just because they're yeshiva brochrim, it doesn't mean they might not find themselves alone in a, you know. I hope not.
Okay,
I know what
so
it's like. No
if
fun.
the yeshiva bacher is 22 and he goes home for Shabbos, okay, he's home for Shabbos. His mother lights. He doesn't need to, he's part of that household, just like when he was a kid. If he's 22 and he's alone in the yeshiva dorm room, who's he with? He's with 50 other yeshiva boys, right? So
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
yes, has to,
this
yes.
is an interesting disparity between theory and practice, but we'll get there. Okay, so nashim muzharot bo yoter min ha mipnei shemitzu b'bayit v'osoket b'tzarchei habayit. Women are more responsible because they're present in the home and engaged in the household needs. Typically, not exclusively, but typically, when men go to shul, it's very hard to go to shul and light Shabbos candles, especially in the summer. If
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But especially if you're going to accept Shabbat with candles, it's hard to go to shul, especially if you're going to drive to shul. So that's just an example of the complication. So this is why that mitzvah is sort of seen as more in a women women are more responsible for it. But the point is that actually everyone has a responsibility to light Shabbat candles. Okay. Okay. Now, the timing of lighting Shabbos candles is our next stop here. It's worded a little bit interestingly, but it says a person should not hurry to kindle the Shabbos lights while there's still much daylight left, because then it is not evident that they're being kindled for the sake of Shabbat. This is in a way, this is our case of the person who lights their dining room because they're setting their table. Well, it's not clear that you're really doing that for Shabbat, right? Or let's just say, your dining room table is also your desk. So you lit the overhead light at 2 p.m. when you were finishing your last report, and then you went to set the table, and then you made Shabbat. Well, it's not clear that light was on for you to do your report. It wasn't, right? So it's not clear that that's for Shabbat. So we want to make sure that there's some evidence for that. And we're going to see there's some structure around that. Nor should the kindling be delayed past the appropriate time. This is interesting because the appropriate time is going to vary city to city. In Jerusalem, I believe it's 40 minutes before sunset. Here in Sharet Zedek, it's 18 minutes before sunset. And depending on the time of the year, we might set it at different times.
I have a question on that, Rabbi.
Yeah, sure.
If you are going to go to shul and there's no woman in the house when you go to shul, how early? I mean, you're obviously lighting candles for Shabbos because you're lighting them as you're heading out to go to shul. But how early before Shabbos can you light them in that situation?
There are two answers to that question. Answer number one is, we'll call it the winter answer, or the non-summer answer. So if Shabbat is not being brought in particularly early, then and assuming that you are have a good they have a good translation here. Okay, let me read this, and I'm going to answer exactly that question. Okay,
Okay.
so it's going to be a little easier for me to do that while reading through section 4. Okay, nor should there be, okay, if one seeks to kindle light while there is still much daylight left, and accepts Shabbat at that time, close to the time of the kindling, he may do so. So it's still light outside. The sun is still up in the horizon. You can see it, over Ichves, the Tantalus Mountains. You see the sun there, and you say, okay, I want to make Shabbos early. So let's say it's 30 minutes before the posted candle lighting time. I want to make Shabbos early, no problem. You can make Shabbos early. You light candles, you accept Shabbos, no problem. Since he accepts Shabbat directly thereafter, it's not considering kindling too early, provided that it's after Plag HaMincha. There's a time, a halachic time, which is called Plag HaMincha. The easiest way to find this is a website called myzmanim.com. And you just look for exactly those words, Plag HaMincha, which is 1 1/4 seasonal hours before nightfall. So what's a seasonal hour? A seasonal hour is you take the hours between sunrise and sunset, and you divide the total number of minutes by 12, and you take that number of minutes, let's just say it's 65 minutes. A seasonal hour could be 65 minutes long, right? If the total number of hours let's say it's 13 hours of daylight, so a seasonal hour is going to be 65 minutes. So that means 1.25 times 65, which my mental math is not good enough to tell you what that is, but that number of minutes before sunset is going to be Plag HaMincha. So as long as you're after that Plag HaMincha, everything here is very smooth, right? Let's just say you're half an hour before. That's well within Plag HaMincha. You are now 30 minutes before candlelighting time, which means you are 48 minutes before sunset. You can accept Shabbat immediately. And in winter, if you are the man and you're planning to drive to synagogue, so simply what you do is you say, I am lighting Shabbat candles, but I am not accepting Shabbat. I'm going to light, but I'm not going to accept Shabbat. I will accept Shabbat in the prayer service. And you light your Shabbat candles, and all is well and good. Now,
I gather Plag HaMincha is much shorter in winter than in summer.
Here, I'll just show you. This is the website, myzmanim. Okay, you can see Plag HaMincha is, what date is it giving me here? Oh, it's on March 14th. Let me go to today. Today. Okay. Today's Plag HaMincha is at 3:54 p.m. Okay? And you can see that sunset is at 4:50. So this is like 55 minutes. The halachic hour now is about 55 minutes, right?
Right.
Seasonal hour is about 55 minutes because it's 34. So, and then now this was March 14th. I was looking at March 14th. I guess I was looking at the day of Purim, because I think this is going to be, this day is Yud Daled Adar, that's Purim. So I was looking at halachic times of Purim, nothing untoward here. At this time of year, we see the candle lighting is at 6:58, and so this halachic hour is much longer, right? So the halachic hour between 7:16 and that's about 70 minutes long, or
Right.
70 and change minutes long. So you can see that this floats. Let me see how far I can get. This website doesn't always let you go super far in the future, but let's see how far I can get. I'm gonna go to May. I'm gonna go to May 31st. Okay, that'll give me a good split.
So we expect it's going to be much longer now, right?
Right, and this is May 31st. On May 31st, we can see Plag HaMincha is at 7:29, right? let's say I've got an elderly, and let's say synagogue at this time of year is going to be 7 o'clock. Wait a minute, Rabbi, I got to get to Mincha at 7 o'clock. I'm saying Kaddish for someone, right? At 7 o'clock, I got to go to Mincha. I can't be home. How am I going to light my candles, right? There's almost a checkmate here. I don't get it. If I'm a man, you just said to me, Rabbi, I have to have Shabbos candles lit in my house, right? And yet I have to be at Mincha. Mincha's at 7 o'clock, right? And the shul's going to accept Shabbos at 7:35, which they can, right? Because it's after Plaga Mincha. So what do I do? So in this case, in those rare cases where there's no one at home to light the candles for you, so you're allowed to light the candles before Shabbat and then make the bracha on the candles when you come home. It's as if you don't use the light until you come home, and when you come home, you make the bracha on the Shabbat candles. It's not an ideal situation, and we try to avoid it as much as we can, but sometimes it cannot be avoided. Okay. Hopefully
Thank you.
So that clarifies your situations. Okay. Section 5 is what bracha do you make? And the bracha that we make is Asher Kiddishanu Mitzotav V'Tzivanu Lahadlik Ner Shal Shabbat. Blessed are you, Hashem, Elohim, King of the world, who sanctified us with a commandment and commanded us to ignite the Sabbath lamp. And there's also on holidays, we make the same bracha. Now, so here's an interesting piece. If you were accepting Shabbat with the lighting of Shabbat candles, so let's say you light with a match. Now I've got a lit match in your hand. What problem does that pose vis-a-vis Shabbat? Right, extinguishing.
English.
Right. So here we learn that there are a couple different ways of dealing with this. One way was mentioned by the Gaonim. The Gaonim said you should just let it fall to the floor. It'll extinguish by itself. I think they had dirt floors, so it wasn't such a big deal. We have, hardwood floors, maybe not such a good idea. Maybe that's when you get a metal tray, you let it drop. But our practice is what the Ramah writes here. And in order that it be before your act, you should not benefit from it until after the blessing. Therefore, we put a hand in front of the candle after the ignition. We maybe put it, instead of putting it in front of the candle, we put it over our eyes. Then we bless, then we make the blessing, and afterwards we remove the hand. This is called, there's a Hebrew concept which is called over la'asiyatan. Over la'asiyatan means immediately before, right? So here's where that idea of before the act. And such is the practice. So that's Ashkenazic practice, is that you cover your eyes. You cover your eyes as a way of saying, I'm not going to look at the candles as Shabbat candles. We're not going to use their benefit until after I make the bracha, and then I remove my hands, and that's when I make the bracha. Now, this is when I ask you about the yeshiva brachas. So number 6 is sort of the interesting footnote here. This is the difference between theory and practice. Right? You have boys who they go to learn in prestigious yeshivas. They should light a Shabbos candle in their rooms. And they should make a blessing on it. But somebody who's with his wife, he doesn't have to light in his room because his wife is going to make for the household or for him. Now, in the later literature on this, they basically said, well, it's true that it's written in the Shulchan Aruch that yeshiva bachers should light Shabbos candles, but as a matter of fact, that's not how it generally works. Generally works, it is, in yeshiva, there's a big cafeteria, and maybe, the Rosh Yeshiva's wife lights candles, and it's for all the boys in the yeshiva. And I think that's generally how it is handled. Could be that one of the boys of the yeshiva lights the candles there, or somebody takes care of it and includes all of them in that as if they're one big household. excuse me. My experience is that there is not that dorming yeshiva boys do not light their own Shabbat candles. Okay.
But it's not forbidden, is it?
No, it's not forbidden. It's not forbidden to do so, but it is a these days. Part of what's, and this is, by the way, our fire safety now is a bigger difference than it was back then. And so a lot of hotels will not let you light candles in your room. And it's very clear from this that was very normal to light candles in your room. But nowadays that is generally considered a fire hazard. So if you have, let's say, you go to a hotel for Shabbat, and it is a kosher hotel, so then almost always they will have a room for people to light Shabbat candles in the room where they're going to eat. If you are not at such a hotel, then we get back to the issue of electric Shabbat candles. I would advise packing, like, sometimes it's hard to find incandescent lights anymore, but I find sometimes they have, like in the dollar store, they have these cheap night lights. You take it with you and you plug it in, and those are your Shabbat candles, and those are what allow you to satisfy both the hotel and your conscience. I'm also a nervous wreck. Like, it's just, if I had candles burning in my room against the will of the hotel, which you shouldn't do because you take the hotel with certain conditions, I would be a nervous wreck and I wouldn't want to do that. So I much prefer to have some kind of an incandescent light to manage such things. Again, same rule for a hospital room as well. Okay.
So,
right.
I have a bit of an odd question.
Sure.
I'm just looking at the heading of this of the source that you've given us, and it's the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim.
Yes.
I thought that those are two different works.
No. Shulchan Aruch is divided into 4 subsections. There are four different pillars of the Shulchan Aruch, right? One is called Orach Chaim, which means daily life, and then you have Choshen Mishpat, which is about civil law. You have Even HaEzer, which is about personal status, and Yoredea, which is sort of about ritual, not ritual, but the kosher, non-kosher. Ribbis is in there. I don't know what flameless candles are. I don't know what that is, so I can't answer that on the chat, what a flameless candle is. But I do have to battery operated flameless candles. If they're incandescent, that's fine. But if they're those like little tea lighty things that are LED, then I would not use them. Okay, so I have to close today's installment at this point, but I think we got most of Shabbat candles kind of covered. I guess the one last thing I should say is it needs to be in a place where you have functional light, or you need the light. So either bedroom or where you eat are the 2 places to light Shabbat candles. If you have if that question comes up as such. Okay, thank you all for joining, and everybody, fantastic evening.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you very much.